How much prep time should you put into your podcast? Whether you're a solo artist or whether you are an interviewer, it all depends on exactly what you are trying to create. It's a question that came into me last week via email, and it's a question that I'm going to dig into the answer to today here on the Podcast Accelerator. I'm your host, Mark Asquith, CEO and co-founder of Rebel-Based Media, creators of podcasting technology, including podcast websites, including Podcast Success Academy, including productivity, and, of course, Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where you can get 7 days completely free by checking out Captivate.fm. Now, the show is brought to you by AWeber, my email marketing platform of choice. Why do you need to care about email marketing as a podcaster? Well, look, you and I, we have a relationship, all right? You're listening to me right now, and I'm creating this content for you. The easiest way to strengthen that relationship is to build a conversation, and the easiest way to build a conversation is via email. So you need to be building your own data platform. You need to be owning that email marketing data that you have, and the easiest way to do that is to check out AWeber, who I choose for my email marketing needs. You can get 30 days completely free at markasquith.com/AWeber. So, how much prep time should you put into a podcast episode? Well, look, if you really want to just get down to the meat of it, the answer is different for everyone. The answer is different for everyone. And there are so many variables. What do you want people to do during listening and after listening? What are the calls to action? Do you have ads? Do you have a guest that you need to research? Is it a deep dive topic? How long is your show? How short is your show? Like this, the Podcast Accelerator. There are so many variables that when I get questions like this that come in, this is why I record an episode about them, because there is no one size fits all. And just like YouTube, just like any other platform, like blogging, any other media, people want a cookie cutter answer. And just like YouTube and blogging, there is no cookie cutter answer. Sure, there's data driven answers, but the data comes from different variations in content. So, prep time for a 45-minute interview show is far different to an 8-minute solo show like this show. So, this is so very different depending on what you do as a podcaster, but there are some rules that you can follow. In particular, the rules that you need to follow are this. What do you want people to do when they've listened to your podcast? And in particular, where are you going to put these calls to action? Now, don't put them at the end because no one's listening to the end. Make sure you get them right at the beginning. That's why pre-roll ads tend to cost more than mid-roll and post-roll ads. Maybe get them during the middle. If you've got a longer form show, you can afford to do that. A mid-roll is completely fine on that front. But again, that takes preparation, because what we know works so very, very well is not just a dynamically inserted kind of out-of-context advert, which can sometimes even come across as very insensitive. Instead, what we see works is a very contextualized, baked-in advert, like I do with AWeber, where I'll roll this into the fabric of the content and the context of the content. So that's something that you've maybe got to plan and script. And that leads me to the next point. Should you script? Do you script? I don't script my episodes because I work in podcasting every single day. Like, I work in this thing and see thousands of podcasters every single day. So for me to script this, actually, I'd lose a bit of my edge. I wouldn't be able to give you that raw feedback that people value this show for. But I know so many other solo podcasters who have got the types of show that require scripting, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. So if you script it, obviously that's going to take a lot more time. If you're an interviewer, so let's take my great friend Mr. Steve Lazarus, who runs Your London Legacy, and he's got an episode coming out that I am so envious of not being able to attend in person, with one of my favourite authors of all time. Steve, you know what I'm talking about, and I can't wait for that one to drop. I'm not going to give it away here because I think it's that much of a surprise. I think it's fantastic. But Steve's got an interview show, and he goes deep. He goes deep on this sort of thing, and he has to really research his guests, which is a chunk of time. So this is why there's no cookie-cutter answer to this. And I'm really, really sorry if that doesn't help you. But what you need to understand is that rather than saying, well, look, I need to spend 50% of my time prepping, what you've got to understand is that the time required, it's the same as the length of an episode. The time required is just the time required. If it takes you half an hour to prepare for the very best version of the episode that you can put out, then you've got to put half an hour in. If it takes you 2 hours, go ahead and put 2 hours in. If it takes you 10 minutes, fine. But make sure you're not shortchanging people. This is the point with podcasting. It's the same with, like I said, with YouTube and blogging and so on and so forth. You need to put enough time into it that you are fully confident that you have covered everything that you wanted to cover. Now, what I will say with this is that I don't want you to lose that element of serendipity. I don't want you to lose that element of, wow, let's go down this path. Because in particular, interview shows, so many of the best interviewers will do that much prep, but they are fully prepared not to use that prep if things go off on a tangent and they realize that they're getting something from this person that no one else has got, or they've opened up, or they've struck a connection with them. Jordan does this very, very well. Jordan Harbinger does this very, very well. Even Mike O'Neill at Solopreneur Hour does this very, very well. Study the art of interviewing, because a lot of a great show is not about the preparation. It's about having the tenacity as a host to be able to dig into what really makes a show great. I know this with the Podcast Accelerator, that much of my audience doesn't want me to be scripted. They don't want me to be giving the same old generic advice that everyone else is. Like even people, like I saw an advert yesterday, Brendan Bushard. He's doing like a how to podcast course. Everyone's doing it now. They've got a podcast. They see the ability to make a little bit of brass doing it, and they spin up a course. They're all doing it. This is why my show is very raw. It's very much, here's my opinion as someone working in the industry every single day. That's the formula that works best for me. I'm not saying you should copy that, and I'm not saying that that's the formula that will work best for you. But what I am saying is that the amount of prep time that you put into an episode has to match your personality, has to match your brand, has to match your content, and has to match the deliverables that you want to give on any given episode. So you can't shortchange your audience, all right? They will know if you have not put the right amount of time into your episode. Like I said, this is a short-form podcast, and I work in podcasting literally every single day. I've done my 10,000 hours. Believe me, I've calculated this. I have done way beyond 10,000 hours in podcasting. So I feel comfortable riffing on this. If you do not work in your niche every single day, if you don't work in the podcasting space, the thing that you podcast about space, so if you've got a comic book podcast and you don't work in comic books, you probably need to prepare more, okay? That's a very random example. But my point is that you can't shortchange your audience unless you are an expert and you can be interviewed on the subject and really maybe even get on stage and talk for 45 minutes about your subject of choice without any prep. You probably need to put a lot more preparation in than someone that does work in their niche, okay? So what I'm trying to get at with that is that you can't shortchange people, all right? You can't shortchange people. It's too obvious that you're doing that, and people will tune out because there's coming up to 1 million podcasts in Apple Podcasts right now, okay? We're very close to hitting that number. You've got to stand out. You've got to make sure that people understand that you deliver quality and value every single time, that you entertain them, you make them laugh, you know? You've got to do that. And the only way to do that is to put the right amount of effort into it. So if you are struggling for prep time, here's what I would recommend that you do. Do less content, okay? Do less content. If you've got a once-a-week show that's 1 hour long and you can't prepare it, so you're thinking that I should do a 1 hour show, but it's probably not the best content because I don't have time to prep for it. Do more prep and do less content. I would rather you took an extra 30 minutes doing prep and made the show 30 minutes of very good quality content. If you do twice a week and it's maybe not the best content, consider, should I do more prep time and just do once a week as a podcast, all right? So the prep time for me is like the marketing time in a podcast. It's vital, and not enough people spend enough time doing it, okay? So just consider that, okay? There is no cookie cutter. There is no cookie cutter. But if your show is not the best it can be, consider doing less content and putting more time into the prep. Now, these are crazy times. If you need anything, whatever I can do, I know things are very, very uncertain at the minute with everything going off in the world with COVID-19. Whatever I can do to help myself and the team, we're all around to help. My email address is mark@rebelbasemedia.io. Please reach out. Let me know what I can do. And if there's anything at all that you need, I promise myself and the team will do our very, very best for you, all right? Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. If you need anything, you can also chat to me on Twitter at Mr. Asquith, the same on Instagram at Mr. Asquith. And until the next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.